Welcome to Power in Words, a quiet harbor in the loud and often overwhelming ocean of modern life. If you have found your way here today, you are joining a sanctuary built entirely on the belief that words carry the profound energy needed to heal the spirit and awaken the dormant strength residing within us all. This space is dedicated to wrapping you in genuine emotional understanding while reminding you that you are never walking through your intricate inner landscape entirely alone. We are gathered here to share a moment of sincere reflection, to slow the frantic pace of the day, and to draw breath together as companions on a shared journey of self-compassion and resilience. The world outside frequently demands that we perform flawlessly, that we carefully mask our uncertainties from public view, and that we project an unbroken image of absolute certainty at all times. Yet in this shared space of power in words, you are invited to simply sit exactly as you are, to drop the heavy armor you've been carrying for far too long, and to look honestly at the vast horizon of your own mind. It is here in this quiet intimacy that we can explore one of the most liberating truths about the human experience, a truth beautifully captured by the Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh when he observed that feelings come and go like clouds in a windy sky. Think for a moment about the majestic sky above you on any given afternoon. It is boundless and entirely capable of holding every conceivable weather pattern without ever being diminished by the intense storms it contains. Your mind is exactly like that infinite expanse. Yet the quiet tragedy we so often fall into as human beings is that we forget our own vastness. We become entirely identified with the passing weather. When a heavy cloud of sadness or a frantic storm of anxiety rolls into our daily awareness, we do not merely acknowledge that we are experiencing a moment of sadness or a physiological wave of anxiety. We internalize the weather completely. We tell ourselves that we are sad. We tell ourselves that we are anxious. Without realizing it, we allow our entire sense of self to be swallowed by a temporary emotional storm. This deeply ingrained psychological habit dictates how we navigate our daily existence. Our brains are evolutionary marvels perfectly wired for physical survival, constantly scanning the environment for potential threats to our safety. When an uncomfortable emotion arises from within, the internal alarm bells begin to ring loudly, and our conscious focus narrows drastically. We become entirely obsessed with the dark cloud hovering above us, like utterly convinced in that moment of shadow that it will successfully block out the warmth of the sun forever. Carrying this internal weather day after day is simply exhausting. You might wake up in the morning feeling a subtle heaviness resting in your chest, a quiet dread that lacks any clear logical origin. Instead of recognizing this sensation as a simple passing weather front moving through your nervous system, the analytical mind immediately begins to build an elaborate narrative around the physical feeling. It frantically searches the archives of your past failures, highlights your current personal insecurities, and projects catastrophic visions into your future uncertainties just to justify the existence of that morning heaviness. Before you have even stepped out of bed, a simple passing cloud has been manufactured into a seemingly permanent state of being. You begin to believe with absolute certainty that this heavy shadow is exactly who you are, that you are uniquely broken in some way, and that the clear skies you remember from the past were nothing but naive illusions. We must learn to recognize that this powerful illusion of permanence is the core deception created by our most difficult emotions. When you are standing completely exposed in the middle of a torrential downpour, it is incredibly difficult for the mind to recall the sensation of dry land and warm sunlight on your skin. But the sun has not actually ceased to exist simply because it is temporarily obscured from your limited vantage point. The eminent psychologist Carl Jung once astutely noted that what you resist not only persists, but will inevitably grow in size and psychological influence. When we fight our own internal emotional weather, when we panic at the first sight of the gathering clouds and desperately try to push them away with sheer force of will, we are unwittingly adding our own precious energy to the storm. We create a secondary, entirely unnecessary layer of suffering for ourselves. We are no longer just experiencing the primary emotion of fear. We are now experiencing the exhausting fear of our own fear. We are no longer just feeling sad about a loss. We are deeply angry at ourselves for having the audacity to be sad. This endless internal warfare is exactly where so much of our vital daily life force is quietly depleted. This depletion is magnified entirely by the modern digital mirrors we constantly hold up to ourselves. We live in a highly curated era where everyone else's sky appears to be flawlessly blue and perpetually sunny. We scroll endlessly through carefully filtered galleries of human existence, witnessing only the triumphant highlights, the major victories, and the seemingly effortless daily joy of others. When we inevitably compare their manicured, artificial sunshine to our own messy internal thunderstorms, a deep and isolating sense of modern loneliness takes root in the heart. We begin to harbor a silent, devastating suspicion that we are falling irreparably behind everyone else, that we are failing at the very basic, fundamental task of being a functional human being. This comparison trap is the exact birthplace of imposter feelings. You might look around at the people in your life, whether in a classroom, a workplace, or even within your own family, who seem perfectly put together and effortlessly confident. In those quiet moments, you might harbor a secret fear, wondering when they will finally realize that you are just trying to figure it out as you go. You might look closely at your personal relationships and harbor a secret fear that you are not quite enough for the people you love, that your internal complexities and your passing emotional shadows make you fundamentally unlovable. These silent psychological struggles are universally carried by almost everyone you meet, yet they are rarely spoken about in the open light of day. The psychological toll of this constant concealment is immense and physically draining. It forces us to live in a chronic state of hypervigilance, always guarding the perimeter of our own vulnerability. We attempt to grasp the invisible wind and command the heavy clouds to immediately halt their natural progression across our mental sky. But feelings, by their very scientific nature, are kinetic energy. They are biologically supposed to arrive in our awareness, to deliver their specific message about our environment or our needs, and then to naturally move on. When we try to trap them, suppress them into the dark corners of our minds, or outright deny their existence to ourselves and others, we severely disrupt the natural ecological balance of our own psyche. Stepping into the necessary role of the observer does not mean becoming cold, detached, or totally apathetic to your own rich human experience. It means actively developing a profound and compassionate spaciousness within yourself. It is the gentle practice of noticing the sudden arrival of a heavy feeling and greeting it with the same quiet curiosity you might offer a weary traveler seeking temporary shelter from the rain. Instead of slamming the door in total panic, you allow the feeling to step inside your awareness, knowing fully well that it is only a temporary visitor. It will not take up permanent residence in your mind unless you actively build a cage of rumination to trap it there. This cognitive shift in perspective is incredibly subtle in practice, yet monumental in its positive impact on your nervous system. When sudden anger flares up, hot and demanding in your chest, our human instinct is often to retaliate immediately to extinguish the fire. But as we slowly practice stepping back, we can begin to simply notice that rising heat. We can acknowledge the friction that caused the spark and watch the emotional flames dance without rushing to throw more wood onto the pyre. The observer deeply understands that the anger is merely a cloud passing through the windy sky of conscious awareness. It has a specific shape, it has a rough texture, and it certainly has an undeniable intensity, but it is fundamentally not the sky itself. The sky remains untouched by the fire. The sky remains infinite and clear above the smoke. This profound realization is the absolute essence of true psychological resilience. Resilience is rarely about possessing an unbreakable external armor or magically maintaining a relentless stream of positive thoughts regardless of the changing circumstances. The modern concept of endless positivity is a brittle illusion that shatters the moment real tragedy or genuine hardship strikes our lives. True resilience is entirely different and vastly more reliable. It is the quiet, flexible strength of a deeply rooted tree that knows exactly how to bend deeply in the hurricane winds without ever snapping at the trunk. It is the profound, grounded acceptance that you will inevitably experience days of bitter emotional cold and nights of overwhelming psychological darkness, yet you maintain the quiet, unshakable certainty that the rotation of the earth will inevitably bring the dawn. The profound core of mindfulness, a truth echoed by the life and work of psychiatrist Viktor Frankl, is that between a stimulus and our response, there is a space. And in that precious space lies our ultimate freedom to choose. That space is the infinite sky within you. Every single time you pause and simply notice a difficult feeling without immediately becoming entirely consumed by its demands, you are actively expanding that vital space. You are reclaiming your personal freedom. You are deciding with deliberate agency that your past trauma and your current emotional state do not hold the final authority over your behavioral choices. You are actively learning how to sit peacefully with the profound discomfort of uncertainty. Uncertainty is exactly the fertile, unmapped soil where all true personal growth and deep psychological transformation successfully occurs. As human beings, we desperately crave firm guarantees. We intensely want to know beforehand that our decisions will work out, that our relationships will endure the test of time, and that our emotional pain will permanently cease. But life, in its infinite complexity, offers absolutely no such guarantees to anyone. It offers only the continuous, unpredictable unfolding of the present moment. When we finally stop demanding that the clouds hold still to please us, we can finally begin to appreciate the intricate, shifting beauty of their natural movement. Appreciating this constant movement requires a deep well of self-compassion. We must intentionally forgive ourselves for the many times we forgot our own vastness and allowed the storm to completely dictate our actions. We must extend boundless grace to the tender parts of ourselves that are still legitimately frightened of the thunder. Authentic healing is the complicated, nonlinear, and incredibly courageous daily process of learning how to deeply trust yourself in all kinds of unpredictable weather. It is the slow, loving reconstruction of your internal narrative. You are no longer the helpless victim of your constantly changing moods. You are the steadfast, capable caretaker of your own precious soul. As you gradually develop this internal stewardship, your natural capacity for genuine empathy will expand dramatically. You will suddenly recognize that the strangers passing you on the street and the family members in your home are also navigating their own incredibly complex, invisible weather systems every single day. The harsh judgments you once held about their behavior will naturally soften into compassionate understanding. You do not need to be perfectly healed or perfectly calm to be deeply and unconditionally worthy of profound love and true belonging in this world. Your fundamental worth is entirely inherent, woven deeply into the very factual existence of your being. It is absolutely not something you must continually earn through relentless economic productivity or flawless emotional regulation. It is a divine given. The brilliant poet Maya Angelou spoke beautifully to this inherent, untouchable resilience when she described how we may encounter many painful defeats in our lives, but we absolutely must not be defeated by them. Every single time a dark, terrifying cloud rolls violently through your life and eventually dissipates into the atmosphere, it leaves behind a much richer, vastly more nuanced internal landscape. You are a magnificent work in progress, constantly expanding your natural capacity to hold the full, vibrant spectrum of the human experience. As you continue to walk bravely forward into the unwritten chapters of your life, I deeply invite you to consciously practice this gentle art of observation every single day. The very next time you feel a massive, overwhelming wave of anxiety, deep sorrow, or profound self-doubt washing over your mind, do not turn and run in terror from the shoreline. Stand your ground bravely, plant your feet firmly in the solid sand of the present moment, and let the emotional wave crash entirely over you. Feel the shocking cold rush of the water, openly acknowledge its tremendous natural power, but know with absolute certainty that it must eventually recede back into the vast, infinite ocean. When the water finally pulls back, you will still be standing exactly there, wet perhaps, shivering perhaps, but totally unbroken and more incredibly alive than ever before. You are the enduring, magnificent sky. You are the infinite, untouchable space in which all temporary things happen. Every single conscious breath you take is a renewed, beautiful commitment to your own miraculous journey of becoming. You have weathered every storm that has crossed your path so far. Even if you feel battered today, even if you are entirely exhausted, the simple fact that you are still here is proof of an enduring resilience. You may not always feel strong, and that is completely okay, but the capacity to heal remains within you, waiting patiently for the skies to clear. Trust completely in the boundless vastness of your own beautiful spirit, and safely allow the winds of inevitable change to carry you gracefully forward toward a bright horizon of endless possibility. You are the quiet sky, and there is no storm on earth powerful enough to permanently extinguish the light you carry within. If you found a sense of peace, understanding, and renewed strength in our shared reflection today, I warmly invite you to like this video, share it gently with someone who might need this message of hope, and subscribe to Power in Words so we can continue walking this remarkable journey together as true friends.